Meantime, I want you to take a look at this new issue of Business Week magazine. The cover story is full of analysts telling you how bad the real estate market is. Now, one of those guys is here. Peter Schiff is the president of Euro Pacific Capital. He joins you now from Stanford. I read through the article, and there were some upbeat people there. You were not among the upbeat people, but I don't know what an article like this fosters without some balance. And that's what I'm worried about, Peter. There's just virtually no balance here.
I read the article, and I didn't think there was enough bearishness in it. You know, I mean, sure, it's a bleak situation. I mean, there is no silver lining here. But unfortunately, it's far bleaker than even that article lets on.
Well, that article talks about declines of 60, 70, 80% in some markets from these levels. That article goes on to talk about whole towns, cities, communities wiped out, about a multi-decade funk from which we might not recover. So you concur
that's happening.
With that?
Sure, and of course, you remember, I wrote about this 3 years ago. I mean, there's a lot of articles that I'm seeing right now that literally, they could have been ripped off my website, 3 or 4 years ago.
So what do you see happening now, Peter? What you pause, young man, is the fact that now the media is agreeing with you. You think you'd run the other way.
No. They still don't think it's as bad as it is. Because first of all, there's no solution to the housing mess without a dramatic reduction in home prices. Okay, that has to happen.
What's dramatic?
Well, I mean, look at how much home prices have gone up in the last 6 or 7 years. In many parts of the country, they doubled and tripled. And this is just unsustainable. These prices were fantasy prices that only existed because of the rampant speculation. Well, they have to allow prices to go down because no one's going to want to lend on this collateral, and people are going to lose a lot of home equity. Americans are going to have to come to terms with their financial reality. They've been living in a fantasy world.
Okay, Peter, I agree, but I'm sorry I have the attention span of a gnat. How much? What are you saying? What kind of a decline are you looking at from these levels?
Well, all the markets are different, but I think from the peak, whatever the peak was in the bubble markets, like in California, Nevada, and Florida, you're going to see general home prices down by about 50%, and you're going to see homes selling in foreclosures at distressed prices of maybe 60, 70% off or more. Certainly the rest of the country, places like Des Moines, Iowa, I mean, I don't really know all the markets in the middle of the country, but they're not going to see declines anywhere near as dramatic because they didn't see run-ups like that.
Do you own or rent right now, Peter?
I rent. I rent my house in Connecticut. I'm renting one in Florida. In fact, I'm moving into another rental house because if you look at the rental markets, if you look at what I'm paying in rent, I barely cover my landlord's property taxes with my rent, let alone, what his mortgage is or what his maintenance is. I mean, renting is still a much better deal because remember, people who were buying homes were speculating. They were willing to pay 40, 50% of their monthly income on the fantasy that houses were golden gooses that would keep laying these eggs, and people didn't look at them as money pits. People thought they were going to add to their income, not subtract from it. So we have a whole economy, remember, that was based on all this excess consumption that was financed by home equity, either through the wealth effect or through home equity extractions. That economy is going to come to an end.
Okay, for people who can't get enough of your cockeyed optimistic view of the world, Peter, there's more to come. But to be fair to you, my friend, you have been predicting a lot of the stuff we see passing.